Yes. My name is David Bagenda. I worship here at Karura Community Center, and I am Karura Community Chapel, and I'm part of the equipping and training ministry. Yeah.
And my name is Jerry Gadesha. I'm also a member here at Karura Community Chapel and part of the same ministry as David, the training and equipping ministry.
Yes.
Once again, welcome. As David mentioned, we're here to hear discussions about legacy. And most of you might be thinking, what do we mean by legacy? And I'm here to tell you, whether you are deep in the trenches of building your legacy, or you're just starting to think about it, you're in the right place. We're going to have those discussions today.
Yeah. And Jerry, when we started this series, the question that kept on coming back to us is, what does it really mean to build a legacy? Because very many people have different interpretations of what building legacy looks like. Tell us.
Well, David, I'll give a chance to our speakers to really tell us what legacy is all about, because I believe they've been through that journey.
Yes.
But I would like to challenge us. Legacy is not something that we think about later in life. Most of us think that legacy is something that we think about later in life. But legacy is something that we think about from day one. When you start your career, when you start your family, it's all about how you live, how you lead your life, how you love, and just how you live out your values.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to us here at Karura Community Center and Chapel. It's because in the broader vision of the marketplace ministry, what we call the church at the gates, we believe that equipping not just church, those serving in church, but also those who are coming to worship, people like you and I, is as important as equipping those who serve in church. Because at the end of the day, we are here to go and impact and engage the people out there as we do our normal course of duty, our work, our business, our studies, our work. So this is all about equipping you as an individual to go out and make an impact out there.
Yes, David. And tonight we're going to hear from two incredible professionals who've walked this journey, who've wrestled with these questions, and have made intentional decisions about the kind of legacy that they want to leave.
So today we invite you not just to listen with your ears, with your heart. Ask these people questions. One of them already assured us that if you ask difficult questions, he's just going to go home. The other one said if you ask her difficult questions, she will throw them back at us. But please do not hesitate. I grew up at a time where, we were beaten for asking questions. I remember one lecturer telling me that if you have nothing to say, David, don't say it. So, but today we are flipping that narrative, and we are bringing in people who are experienced and asking you to ask questions when we come to the Fireside chat.
So once again, karibuni sana to this session. I would like to call Reverend Pitson to come and open the session with a prayer.
Thank you so much. Could we appreciate our moderators for the day? Thank you. I want to ask you to stand, go to someone and ask them this question. What legacy do you want to leave? And if you're with your spouse, don't ask them. This is to you, Norman. Go to someone else. Go to someone else. Ask them, what legacy do you want to leave when you've left? What legacy? What do you want to be known for? Thirty seconds. 10 seconds. Please remain standing as I say this prayer. I want to read Proverbs chapter 10, verse 7. This is what the Bible says. The memory of the righteous is a blessing. And sometimes we used to read this scripture and think it's a memory. It's like you will remember things. No, it's not. The context is that how you will be remembered will be a blessing. So the Bible says, Proverbs 10:7, the memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. And as we discuss legacy today, I want us to know that the Lord has promised us, as his righteous, a good memory. That your children will not walk into boardrooms and the moment they mention the name of their father, they are chased away. They are told, oh, your father was so corrupt. Your father stole land or something like that, or your mother. But may our memories, and through talks like this, may the Lord bless the memory of the righteous. Amen? Shall we pray? Oh God, we are gathered here because we want to be sharpened. Your word has told us that as iron sharpens iron, so one man is sharpened by another man. And because you raise men for men, you have raised our guests today, and you have helped them to do a lot in the marketplace. And not just in the marketplace, but for your kingdom. And Lord, today we are so happy that you've gathered us here to pass wisdom from one generation to another, to pass understanding, and to pass knowledge. We pray, oh God, that your presence will be here with us. Fill everyone who is here with your presence, so that whatever is being said as it comes to us, we will be healed, our hearts will be healed, and we will get ideas that we can apply in family, in ministry, in careers, in building companies and building careers. Lord, we commit our time here to you. You are the God who knows all. And then you've told us in your word that we can be participants of your divine nature. So today, we pray that you will bless this assembly with every good gift that is available for us. We commit our time here to you. O God of heaven, we thank you. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend, for blessing this session. I would like to call Pastor Angela to come and tell us more about the training and equipping ministry.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Karibuni sana to Karura Community Chapel. For people who have joined us today for the very first time, our vision at Karura Community Chapel is to become Christ-like disciples engaging the world. And in the equipping ministry, we are guided by the scripture in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11 to 12. And it's basically the role of the church to equip believers for work of ministry. And the work of ministry is where you live, where you work, where you engage on daily basis. As you have seen, probably as you walked in our banner, some of the things that we are looking at as a church in the marketplace ministry, which is a rebrand of Church at the Gates. And there are different gates in the society. There is religion, there is politics, and much more. And all of us, in one way or another, fall in one of those. And so as the equipping and training ministry, we are guided by that scripture, Ephesians 4:11 to 12. And today what we are basically doing is equipping. And the reason why we are doing this is that you as a believer, you'll be able to really actualize your faith in the different space that the Lord has placed you. Where now we equip in the area of heart and skill. And the scripture tells us that David, when he had served his generation, he rested. And it's all of us that the Lord has gifted us with different kinds of gifts, talents, and abilities. And so it's a call today, even in the equipping ministry, that one of the things that we are doing, like this TED type of talk that we are having today, this is the second session, is that we will really engage. We are providing a community of fellowship where people can share ideas and knowledge and all that. And there are other upcoming events that as a ministry we have put in place that we will all be able to learn and grow together and serve Christ where we have been placed. And why, you probably are asking why the church is doing this. The church is one critical place in a society, and the church cannot be quiet. And I believe that right now, as we think about our nation, as we think about the world, how are we going to create change? The church is the hope of the world, and we cannot be silent. And it's a call today that as you listen to our speakers today, that you will be motivated to step up and really actualize your faith and serve effectively. Be excellent in your workplace. Learn from these speakers and really become that which the Lord is calling you to be. So one of the call that I will really want to make today is that you will partner with us. We have the different kind of activities that we have lined up for the ministry. And this is the TED type of talk. You can recommend people that we can bring on board to share the wisdom that the Lord has poured. We are planning to start podcasts. It's the same thing. We are trying to use the different channels that will be able to really do these events, that we will be able to engage further. We have mentorship sessions, and we are calling you, if you can mentor, that you'll also step up as a mentor. You are an expert in your field. Please do sign up at the end of this and join us as we really engage the world for Christ. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Angela. Now, Jerry, tonight is all about legacy. And it's only befitting that we start with someone who has literally written a book on legacy.
Absolutely, absolutely, David. Our first guest is someone who embodies purpose, resilience, and grace. She's a woman who has not only broken barriers, but lifted others as she rose. Help us welcome Mary Wangari Wamae.
Mary is a seasoned legal and corporate leader with an incredible story that spans over 2 decades. She holds a master's in leading innovation and change from York St. John University in the UK, a law degree from the University of Nairobi, and she's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. She also completed advanced management programs at both Strathmore Business School and the prestigious Harvard Business School.
She joined Equity Group in 2004 as a company secretary and rose through the ranks to become the group executive director, overseeing subsidiaries across multiple countries. She officially retired just this year, but if you know Mary, you know her story is not over at all.
Exactly. She's an award-winning leader, recipient of the 2021 Angaza Award and the Women on Board Award, recognized for her commitment to purpose-driven leadership, gender inclusivity, and impactful mentorship.
And if that's not enough, she's the author of 2 powerful books, Her autobiography, The Village Girl, My Dream Life and Legacy, tells the story of her journey from humble beginnings to boardroom leadership. And just last year, she co-authored She Leads, contributing her voice to the ongoing conversation around women in leadership.
She's also the visionary behind the Executive Table, a talk show platform where she hosts leaders and innovators in deep, thoughtful peer-to-peer conversations. And did we mention she's also the proud mom of 3 daughters and deeply rooted in her Christian faith.
Mary, we're really, truly honored to have you here tonight. Your journey is very inspiring, very impactful, and we cannot wait to hear more about it. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Jerry and Frank. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. That one they have read. Sometimes I listen to my bio and I don't believe, is that me they are talking about, Jerry? Is that me? Why? Because if you have read The Village Girl, you have seen the story of where I came from. A small, Linus, should I call it small? A village in Nyeri County. And I was born of a single peasant mom. Well, she struggled even to take us through school. I'm sure you have seen such stories. Probably some of you have actually lived through a similar story. Some of us have been luckier. But the thing that I love most about my life is that even if she was short of cash, short of properties and assets, those are the ones we sometimes use to measure somebody's worth. And I think it's the wrong measure. She had a large measure of what I call wisdom and intelligence. And when I was a young girl, growing up in that village, she told me, Mary, I have nothing, no possessions to leave to you, nothing to bequeath you. So I'll not even write a will because I have really nothing to will to you or your 5 siblings. But there is just one thing that I would like you to do for me. And she said to me, you work very hard. If you work very hard, Mary, you will actually get yourself out of this village. I don't want you to be in this village forever like me. This village does not belong to a girl like you. And you can do it. Just do what you need to do. Work hard and get yourself, buy your ticket out of this village. So, being the obedient girl I was, what did I do? I actually followed her advice. And the lesson she taught me was the value of hard work. Hard work can buy you a lot. It buys you respect. It buys you growth. And it buys you progress, sustainable progress. The real progress, the real growth. So I did very well in school. I actually was the best student so far in that school when I did my certificate of primary education exam at that time. That was the very old system, before 844. And I got myself into a good school, secondary school, and I passed. And I went to Bishop Gatimo Gandu Girls for my high school. And again, I passed so well, I qualified to go for a law degree program at the University of Nairobi. Now, the small little girl from Tetu has bought her ticket through hard work to the University of Nairobi and became a lawyer. And now, when I became a lawyer, her second lesson came in very handy to me. And what was that second lesson? The second lesson was that In this world, Mary, you can get all the certifications and all the degrees. You can study how that technology works. You can study how that AI works. But if you are lacking in integrity, you are not going to go very far. And thank you, Pastor Reverend, for reminding us today. And when I became a lawyer, I saw how true was that statement. 100%. Why? What am I required to do as a lawyer? I started in my own private practice of law. I am getting confidential information from my clients. I am actually getting money entrusted to me for my clients or by my clients. Maybe they are doing a sale transaction, or they are being paid for an insurance claim or something like that. I am the custodian. I am the custodian of documents. I cannot breach the rule of integrity. And I remembered what she told me. As I worked, and I did well as a lawyer, maybe because I really tried to do the best thing. Every single day during my practice, I served my customers well. I went out of my way. Remember the hard work? Sometimes it means you go out of your way for your client. You go out of your way for your member in this church, if you are Pastor Angela and the others who support her. They will call you at midnight. And you have to say, oh, this sleep is so good, but I have to answer this call. It is from my church member. They must be in trouble, or they may need support. So I did that. I answered to every call at whatever time it came. And I guided them, and I helped them. Now, there came a time after about 10 years, and I'm really enjoying the practice of law, that I said, wow, I'm not feeling okay. I'm doing well. I mean, yeah, clients are coming, they are happy, they are paying me. Not too much. I mean, I wish they could have paid more. I saw some lawyers in the room. Don't we all wish clients would pay more? Yeah, it's true. You guys, do you pay your lawyers? So, I felt there's that lingering thing that tells me, am I really creating the right impact? Am I changing lives the way I feel I should be changing lives? Because I believe that's my calling as a lawyer. And when I'm at this stage, I decide, okay, I think I know what to do. I registered for postgraduate diploma in gender and development. And that is because I was serving some women who are sent to me on a pro bono basis by FIDA. You know FIDA? Yeah, the Federation of Women Lawyers. They help the very underprivileged women who have legal issues. They can't even pay your fees. So I used to do that, pro bono. And I loved it. Child support cases, abuse cases, and other advice, land cases, succession, and all that. And I enjoyed all that. But I'm feeling like that's not enough. You need scale. You need to do more. You have helped 1, 2 here and there, but is that enough? No, it's not enough. So I did the diploma. And that is when I learned about how important it was to empower a woman. Empower a woman, and she's able to stand on her own rights. And she's able to walk away from abuse if it happens. But I still did not know. I knew what I wanted to do. Impact, significance. But how do I do it? I didn't know. And then, one day, the opportunity just stands right there in front of my eyes. I got an invitation to join Equity. And when I looked at Equity, I'm thinking, wow, these guys, what do? They are a bank. That time they were a building society, actually, not a bank, but they are doing financial services, but in a different way. They are helping people who are underserved to access financial services. And that really spoke to me, and it told me, yeah, maybe this is what you have been looking for. I knew the purpose I was looking for, but I did not know the how. So always remember that discovering your purpose does not come. It's not an event that happens and now you say, oh, I got it. No, on one day, no. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. It can actually take a lifetime for you to discover your purpose first, and then also how to execute that purpose. You have to keep on looking for signals and be ready and prepared to do it and to spot that opportunity when it comes. I always say that there's no such thing as luck, because some people tell me, oh, Mary, you are so put together, you are so lucky. And I tell them, no, I'm not lucky. I just happened at that moment when Equity came calling to know exactly what I wanted to do, although I didn't know how to do it. And they told me, maybe this is how you are going to scale your purpose. And that actually turned out to be true. So I joined. I said yes to a building society that was not known at all at that time. And some of my friends and family members actually told me, are you out of your mind? What are you getting yourself into? And I told them, I'm getting myself into my purpose. I've just discovered it. So I joined. And what I did is that decision gave me a passion. You cannot execute your purpose without passion. The purpose led to the passion. And I worked day in, day out. I can tell you, we opened branches. We got customers in. We developed products together with others, my team and colleague members, fantastic teams. We built fantastic teams, people who are bound by the same kind of purpose and passion and enthusiasm to serve the masses and empower them and make them financially included. And the result, this is where legacy comes. From 5% level of inclusion several years back, this country has now risen to 85% inclusion on financial services. And I can tell you, the team that I was part of made a significant contribution, not 100%, but significant in that achievement. That is what legacy is all about, where we say, you can walk into any bank now and comfortably and with dignity open an account because someone believed in you. And they know that you are up to some good and you need some support for you to take advantage of the opportunities that are going to present to you in various ways. So we opened branches from a balance sheet of 3 billion when I joined. I retired in 2024 June. That balance sheet had multiplied to 1.8 trillion Kenya shillings. That is the power of the legacy that you create, outstanding results. I found 500 colleagues in the bank. I was employee number 712. By the time I left, there were 13,000 staff members across 6 countries in the East African region, from just Kenya. By the time I left, the branch network had grown from 18 to close to 500 in 6 countries in the region. Now, my purpose also led me to move from the legal services manager title that I entered that institution with. That was my letter of appointment, legal services manager. I became director of strategy. I became the company secretary, the longest serving, they say, more than 15 years. I was the compliance officer for the bank, 15 years. Then I became the group executive director in charge of oversight of the 6 subsidiaries in the group, banking, and also another 6 non-banking subsidiaries in the group. Now, how many of you have seen, how many institutions have you seen growing at that rate within that span of time? I was there exactly 20 years. 20 years. And that's the growth that I saw, growth for myself and growth for others, my colleagues, but also growth for the customers. Some customers growing from a small loan of 5,000 Kenya shillings without any security. And by the time I left, some of them are actually taking loans of 1 billion, 2 billion. Isn't that transformation? Do we call that legacy or what? That's what legacy is all about. It is making significant changes to yourself first. Because you cannot change others unless you change yourself. You have to start with yourself and say, I am ready to serve. And then you serve others and support others to serve others. And then others become also significant, like those customers who have moved from small, tiny businesses into big, global, and regional businesses. And they are so proud of that. They are also creating their own legacies in their own industries and in their own ways. That is what legacy is all about. Now, we connect this to the shifts that are happening everywhere. We cannot bury our heads and assume that everything is going to remain the same. The way I grew up in Tetu, and then I went to school, and then I joined the bank. No. Everything is changing every day. Technology is changing. Demographics are changing. I think now they are saying more than 65% of the population is between or below the ages of, I think, 35 or 40 years or something like that. Young people. That's the marketplace, and that's the staff workforce. What does this mean to us today? Because, you know, unless you start now seeing, I want to be a leader. And one thing I said is, I want to be a good leader. I want to be an authentic leader. I want to be a leader on purpose. That's what I want to be, and that's what I set myself to be. And I can say probably I've achieved that, not 100%, but I'm still on the path to that achievement of that vision that I've set for myself. So the other thing for you, if you want to become a leader, you must have a vision for yourself. What do I want to achieve? If you don't have a vision, I'm sorry, but we always say, if I want to go to Mombasa, I want to go on holiday to Mombasa. If I don't have a vision that I want to go to Mombasa, which road will I take? I'll probably take Thika Road. Will Thika Road get me to Mombasa? No, never. It will take me to my rural village, the village, Nyeri. It will never take me. I must know I am going to Mombasa. And if I want to go to Mombasa, I have to take which road? Mombasa Road. If I want to go to Nakuru, I take which road? Naivasha Road. Let's be very clear about that. Set your vision. Now, the statistics are seeming to suggest that 85% of the jobs that today our youth, you guys, our youth, will hold by 2030 do not exist today. You know what that means? 85% of the jobs as at 2030 do not exist today. There will be things, different things. That's a fact, backed by statistics. The average skill has a shelf life of only 5 years today. So if you think you'll be doing your accounts in another 5 years the same way you do it today, you're wrong. The way you do accounts today, in another 5 years, it will be very different. Marketing the same for those who are marketers. You have to adopt a different kind of skill set, a different kind of mindset for the next 5 years for you to be still relevant to your market and to your customers. Machines are not just replacing hands. They are actually learning how to think. Do you know, I was shocked the other day, by the way, Reverend. When I went to chat, I also used chat. Aren't you impressed? Yes, I'm using it. And after, is it he or she? Is chat he or she? It. So I asked it a question and it answered me very well, actually better than I would have answered. And then I said, asante sana. I wanted to test whether it understands Kiswahili. Do you know what it told me? Karibu sana. Nashukuru sana. Asante kwa hiyo kazi unafanya mzuri sana. Ya kuwaelimisha watu. Hata mimi nitakusaidia vile nitaweza. A whole paragraph. That's chat. You don't believe it? You go and do it. Ask it in Kiswahili. It will give you a whole story. And kwanza you tell, haya, kwani you understand Kiswahili? And naelewa hii kitu. That's what is happening. It's not a human being. But you know, at that point, I just felt like, am I talking to you or what? It's just the way I talk to somebody. It only is a machine like this one. But it's talking to me, and it also understands what I'm doing. It has studied me. It knows I'm doing mentorship. Ninaelimisha watu. That's why I'm doing research in a certain way. So, the workplace will no longer be defined by the corner offices, like the one I used to occupy in Equity Center. And and titles. I was the group executive director, the first holder of that title. But that will soon become very irrelevant in the workplace. What will be important is the way I am able to adapt and to collaborate with others, and more importantly, be able to grow other people. Do my colleagues feel that when Mary was in this bank as a director, she helped me to rethink my growth, how I think about my progression, how I think about my career, and things like that? The question is no longer, can you lead? The question I will ask you is, can you grow leaders? How many leaders are you growing in your own space? And you don't have to be a director like I was for you to grow leaders. You can help that person who helps you clean this space to become a better leader and do what they do with passion, with the hope that hopefully sometime they will grow into something more. That's what leadership is going to be all about. Now, what are the tools for reading? No, before I go to that, is AI human? Is it human? It's what? It's a machine. It's a what? Is it a machine or is it a thing? What is it? It's okay, what is technology? It's a thing. I don't know. By the way, I'm not sure. I would be lying if I tell you. But the way I see it, automation will do the work for us. You know those repetitive tasks, you know, the boring reconciliations that none of us wants to do? They are boring, isn't it? For those who are in accounts. Or, you know, repeating, the customers, the marketers, those customers having inquiries on very general things. AI will do that. It will respond and tell you, thank you for calling us. We appreciate your business. But this one thing, AI will never do. And the human will keep on doing. First thing, imagine. That machine will never imagine that, Pastor Angela, you want this church to grow into the region in the next 5 years. You have to do it. The human in you will do it. Because you look at these people who are listening to you every day when you are here together with the other colleagues. And you say, yeah, I think these people need us more. You will imagine. And then you will tell AI to do all the plans and the logistics and all that. That one it will do for you. But you have to imagine. AI will not inspire. I hope you are feeling a bit inspired by me. Imagine if I was playing a cassette here and saying all these things. Would you be as inspired? We need a human being to inspire others. My biggest inspiration came from my boss one day when we were still very small. And he told us, this bank, this small bank that we have just converted, will become the biggest bank in Kenya by 2010. That was about 2005. And I thought, oh, you guys, you can dream, eh? You can really dream. Of course, I didn't tell you. Don't tell your boss he's a dreamer. I said, yeah. Yes. But you know what that did? It inspired me to think of a situation where actually it can actually happen. One day it will happen. And do you know what that did to me? It put into me that energy to wake up early. I used to wake up at 4:45 before I retired. Don't ask me what time I wake up now. Nalalanga kidogo. But I still wake up at 6 a.m. anyway. I think my body just got used. So, you need a human being to inspire others, either by their example or by their words or by their actions. The machine will never do that. The third thing, AI or the machine will never grow others. We need to grow each other and be leaders in our own space. Even this young boy here will be a leader in his class. Maybe he's the one who tells the other boys, hey, guys, let's go. He's a leader in that respect. And he inspires them to follow him. That's what we do as human beings. And we must continue doing that and claiming that space as the machines claim other spaces. if we get mentorship right, we grow leaders who grow others, and those others grow others, and we create a very strong society that we'll all be proud about. Let me just, in very few words now, talk about the tools that we use for leading and mentoring others for the future. Reverse mentorship. I have very young people as my friends. What they do not know is that they are my mentors. They think I'm their mentor. But with every conversation with them, I learn something, either a new way of doing things. I don't know how many of you struggle with your phones. Oh, I want my phone to do. The other day I was struggling just to remove that, you know, the way it closes itself after some time. I don't know, the lock. Because I needed to use it for the podcast, I usually write the questions there. So it keeps on closing. And I had no idea how to do it. So you just call that young guy and, by the way, Ebu, how do you do this? And just that. A click and it's done. We can learn from others. It does not matter the age or the status or the titles. Reverse mentoring is important. Number 2, one conversation, micro-mentorship. Some of us think that mentorship is coming to a meeting like this one, or an event like this one, or a big event, or reading a big book. Sometimes it is one conversation of 2 minutes. I meet someone, oh, hi, how are you? Oh, yeah, I'm trying this. Have you thought about this? Have you tried to talk to so? That's mentorship, micro-mentorship. Don't make it an event or formal program all the time. Formal programs are also okay because they bring people together, but it does not need to be. Mentor every day, every time you step into a lift, and someone says something and you're like, I think I know something that I can tell this guy or this girl. That's mentorship. 2 sentences. Peer circles. Create spaces where people can learn from each other, not just from their bosses. Sharing experiences, sharing their fears. That's mentorship, and it's very effective. Then, this is what I'm doing. Use the AI instruments as amplifiers. I'm doing a podcast now. So far, I have reached 3 million people on all the channels. I will never be able to reach 3 million people in a single meeting. But I'm using the channels, LinkedIn, the podcast, online journals, for people to tell their stories. So because of time, I will not go too much into this, but I have one example, classic example of what mentorship can do to people. One of the mentees I had went through the bank, and then he went into employment. Today, he's now the chief business officer. If you check my podcast, you will find it, Edwin Mwangi. And the whole story is there. And it is amazing what he did after he qualified, after he actually became the best student in his district. He went back to his primary school, and he sat in a classroom with the boys who are in Form 4. And he told them, last year, same time, I was sitting where you are sitting. And now look where I am. I was the top boy in this district. You guys can do it. I'm from a school that never used to send any students to university. That year, they sent 30 students in 1 year to the university. And you can imagine the multiplier effect that those 30 students will mentor another 30, each of them. How many students in total? are they going to have mentored within a very, very short time? There's the multiplication effect of mentorship. Once you learn how to do it, and once you love to do it, that's what happens. And I'm very, very proud of my mentee. Now, when I need to mentor in a school, I call him because he said, it's not enough for me to go to my school. He created a group, the Flame Mentors, and they say it's a flame because we want the light to shine for others. And now they go to schools, 150 young men and women. Invite them to your school. They will come in a bus. And they will talk about values. They will talk about character. They will talk about career guidance. They will talk about preparing for the next phase. They will talk about growth and the like. 150 of them today. Young men and women who have dedicated to pay it forward because they were also supported by others. You can use the MAP approach to mentorship. M is to model the values and skills that you want others to grow into. Am I a good model for others to copy me? Ask yourself that. That is mapping, map, M. A is ask powerful questions that unlock the thoughts. They make me think, oh, okay, I've been thinking this way. Maybe there's another way of thinking and unlocking my idea. That's the A. The P, propel your mentee forward. And also remember that anyone can be a mentor. Anyone. It's not a preserve of the tall and mighty, or the high, or the rich, or those with big titles. No. You become a mentor today. I personally am setting the example by using the Executive Table podcast to mentor others. The idea behind the Executive Table is that you guys are lucky, some of you, Linus comes to your church. So you probably will steal his moment on a Sunday or another day when he's here and ask him, oh, Linus, how did you do this? But remember, there are millions and millions of people who would like to be like him because he's a public and very successful person, but they will never be able to reach him. So it's simple. I bring him on the stage and ask him all the questions, and he says, this is what I did. This is what I got right. This is what I did not quite get right. We learn the lessons from him, and that amplifies to 3 million people. Some of those videos have had, like on TikTok, 200,000 views, because people want to learn these things, and that is why I'm doing it. So, we always say the African proverbs, and there are many. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you do what? You go with, get somebody and hold their hand and walk with them together. You are actually going to go further. It will be sad if you leave this world, because one day, the phones will go dead. One day, whether you like it or not. The emails will stop. Today you are getting 1,000 emails. I used to get 1,000 emails in a day when I was in the bank. But one day, they will stop. One day, that title will go. Ask yourself, when all that is gone, what is going to be left behind? And I know people don't like hearing this because I ask them, when we put you, or you put me, 6 feet under, you will do that one day, won't you? Either I will put you or you will put me, right? We don't know. God knows. But when that happens, what are you going to leave behind? On my side, I will tell you, I said, I do not want to join the statistic of those people that, I think it is Winston Churchill or one of those other writers that I really respect and philosophers, that the richest place on earth is the graveyard. Because therein you find all those songs that people wanted to sing, all those talents that were never executed, all those songs, all those paintings that were never painted and put out there for us to admire and learn from, and all those books that were never written. I don't want to join that statistic. I want to go to my grave empty, because that is the legacy that I want to leave behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Please, another round of... Wow, wow, wow. Yes, and Jerry, tell me, what stood out for you today in that conversation?
Wow. The list is very, very long, but what has really stood out for me, a couple of words: hard work, integrity, impact, and pursuing your purpose with passion.
Yeah, and for me, I think a lot of what Mary has spoken to resonates very strongly with me. I'll definitely borrow the map, model the values that you stand for and the ones that you want other people to pick on. Ask the right questions. I do executive coaching, and I'd started doing mentorship, and one thing I quickly realized is the young people don't want to be like me. They just want guidance, but they don't want to be like me. So you can't give them advice. You can only ask the right questions to unlock the full potential of who they are, and then propel them. Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. By the way, at the end of this session, there is a table out there we are selling today. Mary's book is on sale here today. The Village Girl, My Dream, Life and Legacy. This was forwarded by Dr. James Mwangi. So please, if you want to pick up a book, do not hesitate to do so. The price is 1,500 Kenya shillings. So I think that's to the left. Yes, when you're leaving one of those tables, the books are on sale. Thank you. Yes.
So David, we have our next speaker who is coming up. He's had an extraordinary career across multiple industries and continues to serve in the highest levels of leadership, both in the private and philanthropic sectors.
That's right. He's someone who's worn many hats. Corporate leader, board chair, founder, mentor. Please join us in welcoming Linus Gitahi.
Linus holds a business degree from the University of Nairobi and an MBA from USIU. He has held senior executive roles in GlaxoSmithKline, including CEO for West Africa, and later became the group CEO of Nation Group Media, a role he served for nearly a decade.
Today, Linus chairs several influential organizations, including Tropical Brands Africa Limited, Diamond Trust Bank Kenya and Tanzania, Oxygen Marketing and Communications. He also sits on the boards. He also sits on the boards of Simba Corp, Jubilee Alliance, and even a hospital and medical college.
And let's not forget his contribution at a national level. He was awarded the Moran of the Burning Spear by former President Mwai Kibaki in 2012 for his service to the country.
I think what's inspiring about Linus isn't just his titles. For me, he's one of those people who's done something that I know many people have struggled to do, is come from being employed to actually running your own businesses. That is one of the hardest transformations to do. It's his commitment to impact also in manufacturing, where he champions sustainability and innovation, in philanthropy through his Baraka Foundation, and in mentoring the next generation of leaders.
He's deeply committed and passionate about creating jobs. I've been to your farm in Nyeri. You have? Oh, yes. So you shouldn't lie about it. He's been very passionate about creating jobs and bettering the country. And to top it off, he's one of our members here at Karura. So welcome, Linus.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Good evening. I can move it from here. I can move the slides. Can I? Oh, I can't move. Then I don't need it. I thought I would be able to move. Good evening. Muko salama. First of all, let me thank Mary Wamae for such a beautiful presentation. Now I'm thanking you as a member of this church. Asante sana. That was really inspiring. And I have now decided, with immediate effect, that I'll be your mentee. So get ready. The other thing is, Mary comes from my village. And because she comes from my village, we have very many common friends. And I have a feeling, this is something that we are going to investigate after this. I have a feeling that in one of those circles where we have common friends, she got hold of my presentation. And therefore, but it is all good because he has presented it very eloquently. Now, when I was talking to Ajara there, and I said, oh, my presentation is gone. She told me, Linus, now what you can do is stand in front there and lead us with a word of prayer. And we can go home after that. But I guess before I do that, let me start by saying, I was asked to talk about legacy. And it's something I struggle with. Is legacy something you think about, you talk about? Is legacy something that you deliberately do so that you create it? Is legacy actually something that you talk about, that people talk about when you're not there? And when I was looking at all those definitions, I thought legacy is actually, the real legacy is what they say when you're not listening. Well, I can tell you a lot of things. Like now I'm about to talk about my farm in Nyeri, and I wanted to say many things. Then she said, I've been to your farm in Nyeri. I'm skipping that slide. So I believe that this whole conversation about legacy is it, are we seeing it here? Yeah. I believe this whole conversation about legacy is rooted on purpose. I think the first thing, what I think one should think about, in many senses, is not legacy. Legacy is a product of purpose. So I think we need to think about purpose, because purpose drives deeds. When you have your purpose, that drives the deeds that you do, the activities that you engage in. And out of the activities that you engage in, you create a legacy. And the legacy is then what people talk about when you're not there. What people talk about, like now we can talk about Mwai Kibaki legacy. What was Mwai Kibaki legacy? etc., etc., etc. But I want to spend a few minutes talking about the next slide, which is it sure? Yeah. Let us reflect on this and ask ourselves whether we sometimes or have ever come across this situation. And the situation is like this. You wake up in the morning, that is not moving. That's why I keep turning this way. Huh? Or I can come out, I can come down and present from there. Because otherwise I will keep doing this. Okay. So we're good? There, yeah. So this is what I call a purposeless life. And a purposeless life is where you wake up in the morning and then you go to work and meet, you go to work and meet somebody you do not really like. You know, you really don't like those fellows that you meet. And then you operate, you deal, you talk to different people, and then it is 5 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock, you then lazily walk out of the office and walk around. You're not sure what you want to do. So you pop into a pub or somewhere. And when you pop into a pub, you have a drink or whatever you want to do, or you do your moshene. And then it is time to go home. Now you go home, and it's not a place you wanted to go, by the way. But now it is dark. So you have to end up home. And when, particularly if you're a man, because I've never been a woman, so let me talk about you're a man, then the first thing that you want to do is to take the remote. Because a Man U is playing, or Arsenal. So you know you've not been with those fellows the whole day. And now you have arrived home, you take a remote. And when you take a remote, you are fed, and then it is time to go to bed. You go to bed, generally an unhappy guy. But guess what? The following morning, you have to go to work, meet people and a boss you don't really like, and the cycle continues. Anybody ever felt like that? I have at different times. That is what I call a purposeless life. And I think the beginning of thinking even about creating a legacy is about questioning and looking at exactly who are you, exactly what are you doing, exactly what is it you'd like to do, and what are the steps that you need to begin to go to where you want to do. And then I have some bad news for you. You cannot be helped by Wamae or Linus Gitahi or Pastor here. It is you. It is your deep, at least the whole thing about identifying who you are, what is it that you'd like to be, what are your strengths, what is your passion, what is it that you, and then beginning the journey. Where now Wamae or whoever else, Gitahi, is now the conversation. Pale ndio ningetaka kwenda. You know, before we were going to Mombasa, then Wamae will tell you, you are going towards Thika. And that is not going to take you to. But you have to understand, you have to identify that in the first instance, you want to go to Mombasa. And that comes from deep within yourself. And so it is about, yes please, the next one. And so it is about focus, which I think we need to reflect on. Your contribution to other people, may they be friends, community, or country. Again, if you talk about focus, it is generally not about yourself. When you talk about legacy, it is generally not about yourself. Legacy must then be something that you talk about from a family point of view, from a friend's point of view, from a community point of view, from a country point of view, etc. It's not about yourself. So one, you then need to understand, what is it that I can offer these ecosystems, whether it is a family, whether it is friends, what is it that I can offer? And guess what? I believe we are all fearfully and wonderfully made for a purpose. The difference is that many of us will spend the whole lifetime looking for that purpose. And I'm sorry to say, sometimes not find it. You can be like, and here I start guided by my pastor here, Pitson. You can be like a guy called Methuselah, where the story, you are saying what will be written in the Methuselah's one, if you go to where it is, it will be something like this. He was born, akakuwa mkubwa, halafu akakufa. That is what is not purpose. I think in between, if you agree that you are fearfully and wonderfully made for a purpose, I think it is important that you reflect within yourself what that purpose is. And I actually believe, oftentimes people are lucky. Some people get to get it very, very early on. Others get it later in life. Others get it in the middle. But the moment you get and identify what it is you are here about, then you become unstoppable. Because God has made you for that particular purpose. And if he has made you for that particular purpose, he has made the best version of you and the best version of anyone, for that matter, to do that purpose. And maybe as we move along, I might give a couple of examples. In fact, if you do the next slide, the next slide is on this guy. This is a Mokokoteni guy. Because oftentimes, when we talk about these things, and I stand in front of you to talk about these things, and then people say, how did Mary get there? Forget about Gitahi, whether he's got there or not. That is irrelevant. Let's think about this guy. I want to tell you a story, which I read in 1982 in The Nation, in the Daily Nation. In 1982, I was in Form 6. And I read this story, and it inspired me a great deal. The Mokokoteni man, this is not exactly this guy, this is just a picture of Mokokoteni guy. There was this Mokokoteni guy who was featured across the 2 pages in the middle of Nation. He was featured because he started with one Mokokoteni. And he used to pull his Mokokoteni like this guy every day. And you know how those guys are. When you meet them, you don't even want to get very near them because deodorant is not part of the language. You know how you do that? Because that's real. But this guy had started with one Mokokoteni. He saved money and bought a second Mokokoteni. He saved more money and bought a third Mokokoteni. As he pulled his one Mokokoteni. When he was being featured by The Nation, he had 70 Mokokotenis. And that's a real story. Actually, now I'm not in The Nation, but I can ask them to go to the archives and share that story. It's a real story. He had 70 Mokokotenis in 1982. So what was he doing? And talk about impact. He would now get all these jobless fellows who are in Nyamakema, that whole area, and you tell them, just come, give me your ID or identification, take a Mokokoteni, go and do your stuff, bring it back at 6. Now he had a yard, you pay me 10 shillings. So people would flock there early in the morning so that they don't miss out, get their Mokokoteni, go to their different corners of the city, do their stuff, come back, pay the 10 shillings, and life went on. Now let us do a little exercise, because I can see we are all very educated people. 70 Mokokotenis, 10 shillings. Why are the moderators who might ask me difficult questions? 70 times 10 Mokokotenis, 700. Those guys work on Saturday. They don't come to your church. So in that days, how much money is that? 21,000. Now, 21,000 in 1982 was more money than a PS was earning in the government of Kenya. It was tough for C-suit, right? This was a Mokokoteni man. And you're talking about legacy. We're talking about what do I need to do. We're talking about getting degrees and all that. It does not matter. And maybe what I can do in the next slide is to say, in my experience, whatever I've done, the most important thing I've learned as I look back at my own life, my life, is, and looking at the example of that guy, is it doesn't matter. It is discipline and commitment and follow through. In whatever, remember, you identify your purpose. Oftentimes, why don't we do it? Why don't we? Is because we, and let's be honest with ourselves, we lack the discipline. I lack the discipline. I lack the commitment. And for me particularly, oftentimes, I lack the follow through. And I know you are very good in this thing, whatever it is. And here I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about even the social things. I'm talking about even your own health. You swear from today you're going to go to the gym every 5 o'clock or whatever. And then you don't follow through. And then you don't have the discipline. You don't have the commitment. This guy chose to be the best mokokoteni man in the world. He said, God has blessed me with a mokokoteni. I'm going to be the best mokokoteni man in the world. And because he was disciplined, because he was committed, because he followed through, he indeed was, in the sense that let's say you are a cabinet minister that time, and you can check the numbers. In fact, the way to know how much he was earning is the dollar was at 6 shillings. So you can do the math and see how many US dollars he was earning in a month. So he did not need to do all those other big things because he was big himself. And he was big himself because he had the discipline, he had the commitment, and he had the follow-through. So even as we talk about those things that, hey, how do I do this? How do I get mentored? My suggestion is you start by mentoring yourself. Do you have the discipline? Like I said, that is what I struggle with. Do I have the commitment? Do I have the follow-through? I go down on my knees. I do pray about this and this and this, and then I lack the ability to go and do those things. It's also about people. When you are given a position of leadership, what do you do with people? What is it that you do? And Mary talked about that a great deal. What is it that when you're not there, people would say about you? Because, like I said, we are fearfully and wonderfully made for a purpose. The other thing is we are stewards. We are stewards of monetary resources. We are stewards of social resources. We are stewards of people. So I want to give you a story, and this is, I probably have never talked about this, but since you asked me to talk about those things, I was trying to struggle and say, what do I say? When I was in GSK, I think I left in 2006 to come to Nation Media Group. I remember one of the things I purposed to do, because I was a member of an institution called MIAP. MIAP was Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan. So our executive team was the general managers. I was the general manager for East Africa, one of Pakistan. There was others for South Africa, West Africa, Middle East, etc. So the region was called MIAP. And every year, we would go meet in London and talk about our talent. And everybody would go around talking about their talent. I said, during this time, when I am a leader and been put in that position, my success will be how many people I'll put in those markets. Because if you sat there and said you don't have talent, and the guy in Middle East is saying he has talent, and then they see you are suffering in marketing, they say, why doesn't the guy in Middle East come to East Africa to help you with my market? Me, I said, first of all, I've got a great team. Guys, you want to see good people, you come to East Africa. So then the other guy says, me, I'm struggling with my people. I remember the first one was to say, in West Africa, he said, I'm really struggling in marketing. I said, I've got a great marketing guy. What is his name? Dr. Henry Karogo. And I'm going to say names because they are good fellows. They did very well for me. So even if they are listening, I hope they are. So Dr. Henry Karogo gets shipped to West Africa as marketing director. Then another year, they say, talent. I say, guys, I've got a whole list of talent. Mwingine nani? Dr. Gitahi. I think you know Dr. Gitahi. He's the CEO of AMREF today. We are looking for a medical marketing manager in South Africa. Gitahi is very good. You've never seen a better guy. So he's shipped to South Africa. Then the other time we meet, I've got very good guys. You can't beat the guys. Then they were looking for a brand manager for Aquafresh. There was a young lady I was working with called Anna Odoro. I'm sure many of you knows and because she worships at chapel. We ship Anna Odoro to Dubai. Then there's another guy who worships in this church called John Dio. John, I said, looking for money. We ship him to Mauritius. He tells me he probably was the first black to head Mauritius. What am I trying to say? In that small window we were given, when I was leaving, I was proudly telling the other general managers, by the way, do you know I have a guy in every market? And I was very proud of it. Because if that one goes, you train another one, they take that position. And all those people became great people in their own way, in their own places. And they will not have got those, because I'm the one who is in London discussing my team and saying, do you have talent? Sometimes I used to raise the hand before I know who I want to talk about. But that is what it's about. So it's about mentoring, and it is about helping people realize their potential. Because when you say we want to mentor, we want to do this to people, God works through us. And therefore the question that we ask is, when you are in that space, what is it that you did and what is it that you didn't do? And actually asking yourself, Lord, why have you put me here? And if you do that genuinely, you often find the answers. It's also about community, ladies and gentlemen. When I was in UK, at some point I worked in UK. I was a marketing director for Africa. It's odd to have a marketing director of Africa based in UK for GSK. At that time, I had a department of quite a few people. And one young girl, a Muzungu, she was probably 20-something. She comes to me and says, Linus, I know you come from Africa. And I know Africa has very poor people. I would want to help some and I knew how much she earned because she was in my department. Because I want to help some people. But the problem I have is I know many organizations in London that collect money, and that money does not end up with. But you now, because you are my boss and I think you cannot chew my cash. Also, she thought. I would want through you, I would want to identify kids that I can help. That challenged me a great deal. I've never felt more challenged. I know how much this girl earns, a fraction of what I earn as her boss. And she is talking about how she can use part of that cash to help. Then I said, first of all, I committed to help her. And I connected her with people who would help her. But then I had another problem. If this girl ever came to Kenya, I had asikuguke halafu aulize, sasa nawe boss, nawe unasaidia kina nani? You know, I realized that I would say zero. So I prayed to God. And I said, when I come back to Kenya, and I'm able, God, I would love to start a foundation. That girl should never come here. And I find myself, I have seen here, I find myself saying zero. So I started Baraka Foundation. And Baraka Foundation is something that our church is familiar with because our Tumaini ministry, Reverend can confirm, is actually modeled along Baraka Foundation because we used to get people from Karura coming when we were doing career talks, when we were actually doing the dishing out of the bursaries. And I think over that, we started in 2006 when I came back into Nation. We have educated over 600 kids. Some of them from your village, Mary. You know Mary is from my village, so Mary would know many of those. But that's not the point. And it's not actually something I talk about. If you want to know why that I don't talk about it, I was a group CEO of Nation, and it has never got a paragraph. And I used to get, even Nation, when they want journalists to talk to them, I get Linus Gitahi, Julie Geshoro, they come and talk to them, but I tell them, this is not for news. Because it's a covenant I had with my God. And it did not need to, even today, it does not need to be. It is not about publicity. So, then we had another thing. And in Nation in 2007, 2008, we get into post-election violence. And let me tell you, it doesn't matter where you are, even within the nation, people are divided. Then I remember calling people together in a town hall, all of them. And I said, guys, you know what I've realized? And it is the truth. All of us, why do people, like now, people want a president from their own village? Think about it. Why do, even when we are doing elections, why do people want, there's the president, if you're in Nyeri, you want to vote a Kikuyu. If you are in Kabani, you want to vote Karonso. If you are in Left Valley, you want to vote, etc., etc. Why do people do that? And I realized that is actually not a political problem necessarily. It is a political problem, but it is also a private sector problem. It's your problem and my problem. Why? Because when I become CEO of Nation, and there's a huge public position, in the evening after I leave Nation, I am nothing more than a glorified villager. The places that you hear me is that I'm the chairman of my local cattle dip in Tetu. That's true, because that is how we tend to congregate. You tend to congregate behind your own people. And so we are the ones who perpetuate that kind of thinking. But when you're sitting around a table, we think it is politicians. Politicians are only 300 or 400 or 1,000. Us, we are millions, but that is how we behave. So in the middle of that violence, I told my people in Nation, I want you to get me a school because I have a passion for education. And I want that school to be 350 kilometers from Tetu, minimum. Why did I say 350? Because if you're in Tetu and it's just a rough thing, let's estimate, if you go in a direction, you'll be in the heartland of another community. So people wanted to test me. And immediately 2 journalists came to my office and they said, we have a school. Of course, they were testing me. I said, what is the name? They told me it is Denga Secondary School in Ukwara. I had never been to Ukwara. In fact, the first question was, where is Ukwara? Then I'm told Ukwara is in Nyanza, huko Dani, Siaya. I said, done. You introduced me to the school. So after a week or two, we go to the school and I meet the board. Then the board asked me, because that's just the way we think, all of us. Tunasikia unataka kuwa moja na sisi. So they asked me, did you go to school in Nyanza? I said, no, I went to Thika High School. Then another member says, are you married from here? I said, no. They said, tell us, why are you interested? I said, no, because I'm a Kenyan. I want us to work together. I want us to brainstorm, look at our needs, and we work together. Then they said, now what will be your position? I said, I don't need a position. I just want us to work together. And guess what? We worked together for 5 years, and we built through several fundraising. It was a 300-student school. Maybe somebody here is from Denga. And we built a dining hall, which would get all the 300 because they were eating under the tree. And then I realized, coming from post-election violence, even students, whether in Tetu or Central, they will come, sit, and talk about a Luo. You know how are Jaruo? Then you ask a student, have you ever met one? And oftentimes it's no. We just pass on those things. And you ask a Kikuyu, you ask a Luo, hey Kikuyu, how kwanza ni, umekutana na wagapi? And the answer is none. So what did I do? I got more Equita girls because I knew the chairman, a gentleman called Mushiri Wahome. He was the CEO of Deacons. And I said, I said, I'm the patron. I gave myself a title. I'm the patron of Denga Secondary School. And you are the chairman of the board of governors. By the way, patron does not appear anywhere in the education hierarchy. But actually they made me patron. So we created a sister school relationship where students would come 1 year, stay for a weekend with these kids, play games, get to know each other. And then the following year, the students would go to the other side. And we did that for 2 or 3 or 4 years. Now, that was important because you no longer then begin to talk a Luo or a Kikuyu. You talk about, I made a Fred from Ukwara. I made a Fred from Nanyuki or from Narumoro. But then it did not end there. I remember when they did first. The first one was Moikwita that went to. Then the following Monday, I found, when I went to Nation, I found the whole board outside my office. I said, what have I done? They said, we saw Moikwita when they came by a big bus. And now next year we are the ones going. How shall we go? So anyway, we set out on a Harabe and we bought a bus. together. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm saying that we need to be a solution to those problems that we sit on high stools and discuss. We need to be a solution amongst ourselves. And therefore, the question for you is not whether you're able to sit there and help them to buy a bus. The real question is, these schools are dying to have board members. Your local secondary school, which is probably even a day school, is dying to have a member like yourself. Are you? How many people are members? Because those guys don't pay. Thank you very much. There's a good lady there who is a member. Because they don't pay a lot of money. I can tell you how many people have come to me and say, we want to be board members of companies. I'm looking for them. But you don't want to be the board member of that local secondary school where you can make a huge difference and which you can even change the narrative about our attitudes to ourselves, our attitude towards our community, our attitudes towards the country. And you and them in that ecosystem, in that little village, begin to change how we perceive life. I think I need to run a little faster. It's also about country. And I think maybe I've talked about that even through those things, secondary school. It's also about impact, not wealth. Let me tell you, that picture there, I decided to put it. That picture you can see, that is my mother, that is me graduating, that is my father, and that gentleman there is the one I want to talk about. That gentleman is called Gitogawa Guyo. Gitogawa Guyo was my primary school headmaster. I left primary school. I went to Thika High School for 6 years. I left Thika High School. I went to university for 3 years. And then I graduated. First of all, I wanted also to show this so that many can know I graduated. But the story here is that this man, to this day, is my greatest mentor. And I'm saying that because I passed through high school, I had other teachers, I had passed through university, I had other professors. But the person who really transformed my life is this man. And he's still alive, he's a great man. And not just my life, he transformed many lives. And the difference between Gitoga and the other teachers is that Gitoga would tell us to come at 6 a.m. And we would all be there by 6 a.m. and we talk about life. He would tell me that, like me, he would see me becoming a PC. And then he'd tell me, you know what? That is what I wanted to become. I was not able to, but God gave me the opportunity to teach you. Will you do it for me? We had great conversations about what you can be. So by the time, he never then told us to work hard or study hard. The conversations we'd hold between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. left me so inspired that we would not leave that class even before 6. And for the first time in that school, those days we used to have, exam was what, A's, three AAA. I think for the first time he had like 4 triple A's in that primary school. He continues to be my mentor. You can have, and I've met many people as you'd imagine in my life, nobody comes close to the Gitogawa Guyo. So it's not about wealth. It's about what you can do to your fellow man or woman. It is the conversations you can have that I can talk 50 years later. Because it's 50 years later. 50 years later, I can say that man is still. So why I've showed you that picture is because, so that you don't think it's accidental. When I graduated, I said the one person I want to be the guest of honor in my graduation was Gitogawa Guyo. And that is why that picture is there. And he continues to impact me. Then I want to say it's also about setting your own vision, and I think I talked about that. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, my Christian friends, life has no rehearsal. That is the tragedy about life. It does not. If it had a rehearsal, by the way, situgeanza tena. Hii maneno tumeambiwa na Mary tuseme, God now reverse it. I want to be 20. Hii maneno yote nitafanya vizuri. In fact, I have seen the formula. Life doesn't have a rehearsal. So the best time to start is yesterday. And if not yesterday, it's today. Decide what it is you want to be. Decide what it is that you want, that you are good at. Because ultimately, it's something you think you can be good at, and it's something you're passionate about. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. The first one is what you've seen me reading there, HH, because it is His Highness the Aga Khan. I've had the privilege of working for him for over 20 years, first of all as Nation Media Group, and now I continue as the chairman of Diamond Trust Bank. His Highness, the late His Highness, because he passed on this year, he came to Kenya, and I want you to reflect on this. He was not the leader at that time of the Ishmaeli Muslims. He was not even a Christian. Let's start from there. He comes to Kenya in 1959. He finds that Kenyans are fighting for independence. Kenyans are fighting for independence. And then he realizes they have no communication tools, because the only newspaper that was available was the Standard. And the Standard had been established in 1903. Obviously in 1903, hata hatukujua kusoma, it was a colonial newspaper that time. So he says, how can these Kenyans be able to fight for independence if they cannot communicate, if they cannot share? That is how at 23 years, a young man working in Nairobi, in a home in Muthaiga, that is how Nation was born. He had lots of businesses. Diamond Trust Bank was still there. He could have, gone to his father then, who was an imam, say, we invest in this, we invest in this. I don't think, and I've talked to him many times during that time, he saw the profit ability. He actually saw the need to give a tool to Africans to actually drive that agenda. And if you check in the Nation, to this day, it is run by Africans. Not the Diamond Trust Bank, you have Ishmaelias, although it's a public company, don't get me wrong, but you have many of those Ishmaelias. But Nation, he started it at 23-year-old and handed it over to Africans to use it as a tool for communicating their hope, their aspirations, their fears, their fight for independence. Now, that's a young man of 23 years. So, what were you doing at 23? Me, I was looking for a girl. No, you've laughed. What were you doing at 23? No, let's be honest. That's what he was doing. Therefore, it is not too early. I can see a young man there who is a friend of mine. It is not too early to set up your vision. You don't need to have the immediate ability to do it. But if you do, and if you are committed, and if you are consistent, and if you keep on keeping it, allow me to give another example, another two examples. There's a man called Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is a guy who is credited with the Apple computer, the first personal computer. The guy said, and you should read his, is it biography or autobiography? He was in the university like me when computers were not things you could carry around. We used to go to a computer room because it was a monster. And then you have a keyboard and you check what you type over there. He said, I see a future where people around the world will be able to compute at the palm of their hands. He dedicated his life to doing that. And those things became smaller and smaller and smaller until now, this gadget called iPhone, you can do a lot of computing in it. Thanks to Steve Jobs. That is all he did in his life. Was not Methuselah. Between being born and he died 5-6 years ago, there's a lot of story that you can talk about. Mary, allow me to talk about your boss. You said, because he's a friend of mine, you are classmates. Although I don't like to talk about James much and say we were classmates, because the next question people like you ask is, then what happened to you? However, James is a good friend of mine. And I was in the board during that period of transitioning from building society. What I really liked about James, or Equity, is the fact that they had one singular commitment at that time to bank Kenyans. At no time did I sit in the board and here we want to compete with Standard Bank, or we want to compete with Cooperative Bank, or we want to beat ABSA. The commitment was, where we come from, people are still keeping money under their pillows. and you want to do whatever it takes to bank them. So what did he do? He created products. You guys created products where you could even, if you have 400 shillings, you could open the account, and then on your way home, you think you're broke, you go back and withdraw. When the other banks were saying you need a minimum of 5,000. By the time Equity was even a Tier 2 bank, they had a third, that 3% of all the accounts in Kenya. Were they profitable accounts? Absolutely not. Did they do a good thing that when you paid your T-bonus, you don't go and collect your cash, and then you go through the bar, and by the time you reach home, you wonder what happened to your cash? And you know those stories? So, but after doing that, and very unprofitable activity of trying to bank Kenyans, money followed. And today is one of the biggest banks, not just in Kenya, across East Africa. He did not, or you guys did not start by saying we want to make a lot of money. It started with an idea, a vision of banking Kenyans. And when you have that vision, you don't care what DAPSA is doing or what DTB is doing. You care about whether you're achieving that mission. And oftentimes, ladies and gentlemen, 99% of the times, money will follow. If money is your goal. Let me finish by talking about sustainability. Please show me that one. When you do those things, all the things we are talking about, let us ensure that that vision you have is something that is sustainable and something that can outlive you. The reason people will talk about you after you are gone is because you've created something sustainable. I like giving the example of Kodak. When we were growing up, Kodak was the thing. In fact, we used to say, I need a Kodak moment. That means smile. To get a Kodak moment. Where is Kodak today? Where is Kodak today? The whole thing has evolved. They refuse to evolve with it. And therefore, Kodak is history. But let me bring you closer home. That bus is the one I used to go to Nyeri with, from Thika. It was called Jogo Kemakia Bus Service. And if I did not go with Jogo Kemakia Bus Service, I went with another bus called OTC. How many people of the OTC generation? Wako hapa. Where are those buses? So, and it is not about those ones. It's about what is it that you're thinking of doing, like Igetogawa Guyo, that we shall talk about long after you are gone. So ensure that whatever that is, and that's why to pray to God, to show us. And if you actually meet that you're doing what God intended you to do, then we talk about it for generations. What is it? Maybe how to do that. We shall leave to leverage, who is obviously way better than me in talking about it. But one of the things I learned in one of the CLGs, that was way before Karura. I think we were in Karura Chapel. We used to have a CLG. We were calling it different names. But one lady who impacted my life so much by this one sentence that she said, people, we worry about the 10%. How many people tithe 10% here? Aya, nimeona moja. You're not doing well, Pastor. You're not. But what this person told me that was transformational is, Linus, it is not about 10% stupid. It's about the 90%. The realization that all of it is his. So we worry about this thing called 10%. All of it is his. And therefore, one has to worry about when you wake up in the morning, God, you've given me the ability to steward this, whatever it is. What shall I do for you today? When you ask that, you don't ask about 10%. Then 10% ceases to be an issue because even the 90% is his. Finally, or I think it's the last two slides, integrity and transparency. And I think Mary talked about that. So, but I want to say integrity and transparency is not a project. It is not like a thing you start and finish. Integrity and transparency is a way of life. It is not an occasional act. If I worked in Nation Media Group and stole, I will not be the chairman of Diamond Trust Bank. They are sister companies. And I've been Diamond Trust Bank long enough for people to check what I was actually doing when I was a group CEO. I tell them, if I go back to Nation today, I'll start from where I left. If I went back to GSK today, I'll start from where I left. Because I have nothing to hide. And therefore, you know, I walk the streets of Nairobi without, because of course you can be hit by a mukora and you look a bit stupid. But you have nothing to fear because you did what you thought was right in that space at that time. And therefore, and that is what, we must walk the talk. Like I say, allow me to paraphrase a verse in the Bible that, when I paraphrase it, you will see what I'm saying. For what does it profit a man to accumulate all his ill-gotten wealth if you cannot face your children? What you do speaks so round, I don't hear what you say. And by the way, if you purpose to have a heart that thinks of community, if you purpose to have a heart that thinks of giving, which is an area I struggle with, let me be honest. But if you do that, if at least that is where your mind is, by definition, you cannot steal. You get what I'm saying? But if your mind is about yourself, and who, and me, and I, that is what makes you want to get into other people's space and get the resources or whatever. That is what causes you to steal. Because you are looking at me and Mary and thinking about how I can bridge the gap of me. But if I'm saying God has blessed me with this and I want to share, by definition, you will not be a thief. You will not steal. And when you find that wallet that I left on my seat, you give it back to me. After all, Jesus' power was not built on titles, but sacrificial love. And allow me to give a quotation from 1 Timothy that says, command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation of the coming age. Mary talked about the phone stopping ringing, and I thought she was talking about me. This is one of the things that I thought, I think that's right. Just check whether that's right, is there? My phone stopped ringing. If I was talking here when I was CEO of Nation Media Group, I think by now I would find like 10 or more missed calls. If you check my phone there, I suspect there isn't. But the thing is, when all those titles are gone, what is left is who you truly are. So the question is, who are you? And I finished by saying, there is a poem from a man called Waldo Emerson, which is, to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty and to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. That is to have succeeded. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. After all, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Asanteni sana. I take the seat.
Yes, so that we start. Yes, please.
So, David, what were you doing when you were 23?
You don't want to go there. Thank you. Thank you, Linus. A round of applause for Linus again. First of all, we're going to go into our fireside chat. We're discussing what the fireside chat should be, and Linus and Mary were teasing us earlier that where is the fire next to the chat we are having. But really, traditionally, fireside chats are about comfortable conversations where you indulge this wisdom and see how much more you can learn that might not have been covered in the presentation. So may we request Mary to also join us on stage as we clear and then we go directly into the conversation. First of all, we know we have gone over time a bit, so please, as you ask your question, please be brief, be succinct, and directly to the point. For those of you online, we apologize, but we're going to be here for a few more minutes. I hope you can all allow us to continue. Thank you very much. Yes, over to you.
So yes, a fire would be useful on a day like today, on a chilly evening like today. So this is a conversation beyond the podium, beyond listening to our speakers. This is a heart-to-heart conversation, a discussion that we're going to have with our speakers to just get to delve into the subject matter a bit more.
Yes, I think I'll go first as the audience warms up. And please put up your hand. In a few minutes, I'll just ask the first question. Then we'll field a few questions from the audience as well. Linus and Mary, you kept on talking about, I had you. It's not about wealth, it's about impact. It doesn't matter where you start from. But for many young people, we're already in debt. We're already trying to make ends meet. And here come these very experienced people to tell us that it's about impact. How do I make that bridge between I'm trying to make ends meet and yet I also need to make an impact? Could you just speak to us about that? Maybe Mary, you seem to be nodding. If you could start on that one.
I think there's a misconception, and thank you, David, for that question, that we need to have a surplus, to give. And it is not true at all. There's a story in the Bible, the woman who gave how much? It was like what? A small coin or something. Because that is all she had. And actually, that gift was actually appreciated more than those who are giving in their millions. I think let's start from there. And also to remember that sometimes giving is not about giving assets or money or tangible. A kind word to somebody going through a rough day is also big giving. And I think there's something that I read somewhere. There's a story about someone who said, a girl got locked up in the cold room of a factory. And everyone went home. By mistake, she was left there. And then the guard came and knocked the door. Are you there? The guard at the gate. And yeah, she was there. She said, yeah, I'm here. I'm all alone. I'm almost freezing to death. And then finally, when she was rescued, she asked this guy, how did you know I was here? Because he sits at the gate. Do you know what that guy said? He said, you are the one person who every morning, when you come in through that gate, you have to say, hello, good morning. Are you okay? See you in the evening. And every evening, you say bye-bye, see you tomorrow. So when I did not see you saying bye-bye to me today, I sensed something was wrong. So giving can be in kind. But it can also be that kind word, what we extend to others, the warmth that we extend to others that makes their day. And I have many examples on this, but because of time, I will not go into them. So I think sometimes it's just a matter of, and I think also look at how much we waste. And Linus talked about it. Do you remember the guy, he said, you pass by the local after work, for those who do that, how much do you spend? on things that are not strictly necessary in your life? How many people pay bills of 50,000 on a sitting in an evening? How many kids would that 50,000 educate? Those are just the questions we need to ask. So sometimes it's about just reorganizing the way we do things, reorganizing our priorities, and then focusing the resources where they are required most. There's nobody, I mean, even those guys who give a lot, it's not like they don't have anything else they can do with the money. They have plans, they can do investments and make other millions and all. But we can decide to direct those resources where there will be most impact. That's the way I see it.
Yes, Linus, and as you go into that, I remember you gave the example of the most inspirational person, the headmaster Gitonga. He never gave you money. Absolutely. He gave you his time. He gave you his dreams. He gives you his aspirations for you as a person. Talk to us about more than giving money and as something that you give into legacy, giving people your time, giving people your example, your leadership. You talked about modeling what you want to be. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, because of time, let me just say two things. One, because when you say, why do I start at I think, let's face it, they're talking about resources, right? That's why I deliberately put that Mokokoteni guy. That guy could have been among thousands talking about as we are not able, as we do not have resources, where can we start? But look at that guy. It's a real story. He had 70 Mikokotenis by being what? Committed, disciplined, committed, and consistently doing what he's best at. In anticipation of another time, I had the privilege of speaking. I went to talk to the PS of youth a couple of years back. And what I wanted to know, because the youth are always talking about lack of these opportunities and where do I start? I asked this person, you guys have a youth fund. How many people are coming for that money? And that money is more or less free, semi-free. They have youth equals, but they don't ask you for your father's title. You know what the PS told me? Many, thousands. Then the next question is, why don't you disperse that to all those thousands? You know what he told me? And he showed me evidence. Because 90% of them are coming through the beaten path. They want a posho meal. They want a matatu. You know, those things that our fathers were doing or you see other people doing. And we lack great ideas. And for me, I want to look at you in the eyes, youth, and say, you need to have bankable ideas. That's the reality. We are talking about banking. If you look at banks and their branches, there are over 1,000 branches in this country. And those guys have people like Mary, being the group executive director when she was, asking them, how many loans have you given today? Why is your bank lagging behind? And you know what often the branch managers say? We have not received bankable ideas. So let us start by having bankable ideas. You can sit in a corner and moan, and these things are not there, they are not happening. Where is this bankable idea that you have that is only lacking money? Most of the people who've had bankable ideas got money. And I want you guys, maybe when we go out there, challenge us, let's talk about it. Most of the things we lack, because these banks, sometimes they're even hawking loans. You know, you've even been met by people who are hawking loans among leading banks. Why are they not giving to you? The problem is not the bank. The problem is you need to have a bankable idea. You go to convince this branch manager that, you know, I do this, this is my cash flow, this is how I make money, these are the risks, this is how I mitigated them. And that, I think, is a conversation we ought to be having. And I really, really think that for those who get, like I know a lady who got a ticket to go to China, She only had 100,000, went and did the deal. You make me this product for owner. He said, the Chinese man is saying it's very little. He said, no, you do because I'll come back. They agreed. Imported, kept on importing. Now she imports 40-foot containers. So what she had is a bankable idea, and she knew where to go. She did not start with money. The problem with the youth is and again I say I look at the youth, we start by saying these guys had money. They didn't. Mary has told you her story. Even in terms of business, is the same. Let us think, let's have a bankable idea. When you're talking amongst ourselves, let's be saying, I have had this bankable idea, and let us put it to test. And then after that, let us say we don't have resources. I doubt that we will. Thank you.
Thank you. There's been an overwhelming theme of purpose, finding our purpose, doing it, executing it with passion that will lead to legacy. And my question is, how do you distinguish between your true purpose or your personal ambition?
Talking about myself, I don't know whether it happens to everyone, but I almost felt like my personal purpose was completely 100% aligned with the purpose I was serving in the bank. Why do I say this? It's because you remember I said that at the point I joined the bank, I'm feeling like I need to create more impact. So what I'm missing is the vehicle, the how to do it. And then, so when equity comes, it gives me that vehicle. And so my personal purpose and ambition, if I may call it in your word, is totally aligned with what I can do using the instrument and the brand of that institution. And that is what I did for 20 years. Sometimes, and also one thing you need to remember is that also purpose is not necessarily static. It keeps on evolving sometimes. People have been asking me, if you loved this bank that much, if you loved what you are doing that much for 20 years, why did you leave last year, June 2024? And I tell them, it's because I continually review my purpose. And over time, the last 6 years, I just felt like, okay, I love what I'm doing, the second time now, but now it's time for me to execute my purpose in a different way. And how I want to execute my purpose now is all the knowledge that I have learned in the last 20 years, the experience I've gained, I'm now wanting to share it outside now, in addition to doing it within the confines of one institution. I can actually now share it with the world. And that's exactly what I'm doing. When I did my podcast with Linus and a few other people initially, I got comments, some from people in Kinshasa, some from Rwanda, some are sitting in Johannesburg, some are sitting actually in the US and UK and other places. And they are telling me, thank you for sharing the knowledge, not just my knowledge now. I combine my knowledge with Linus and other executives, and we tell them, this is what I know works. And if you do it this way, most certainly you will get it. If you do it, okay, we have no certainty, but if you do it this way, I tried that and it didn't work for me. So most likely you will fail. Why reinvent the wheel? Try it this way. So we have to also keep on redefining what our purpose or the execution of our purpose at any one time. Because my purpose has not changed. It is still impact through education and through reaching those people who are not reached before. And now here I'm talking about the knowledge and experience. And it's for business people. It's for people wanting to get ahead in their careers. It's for people wanting to live their lives much better, happier lives. They are all listening. So the vehicle has changed, but the message actually remains the same. That's really how I see it.
Yes, very keen to take some questions from the floor so that...
Make a comment.
Yes.
Quick comment on that point. You know, Mary said her purpose was aligned. Mine wasn't. When I went to university, I did BCom accounting. In fact, I was the chairman of Accounting Students Association. So I was a very committed accountant. When I went to practice and I went to PwC, now Coopers, then it was Coopers and Lybrad, I found it daunting. I was that guy. Remember the purposeless life? I was that guy who would go meet people I'm not even liking, go home and, you know, all those things. So I went back to the university and told my professor, you taught me accounting, but I just can't do it. He actually told me there's somebody who's coming here looking for a marketing assistant. He told me, but there's a caveat. This marketing assistant job at Ogilvy and Mather is paying 5,000 shillings. I was earning 7,000. The difference was my rent. But I took the decision. What I did is I said, I'm going to take 5K, but because the house I have, I'm staying alone, I'm going to get a tenant who will pay, it was 1,500, who will pay 750. So you see, I bridged the fact that I was going to have a job that was not paying as much as I was in order to rediscover myself in the world of marketing. Allow me to say this with all humility. One of the persons I respect most in this church, and I really, really respect him with all I have, is our bishop. Our bishop is an engineer. We know that. He was also working for the leading engineering firm. When people say they got a calling, I point at Bishop Gully. He got a calling. He came out, and he's done what he's done. For how many years? 30 years. So next time ask him, how do you get to your purpose? He probably can tell you better than anyone else. Asante.
Yes, thank you, Linus and Mary. Questions, shoot up your hand. I can see one hand at the back. Have you seen, I think the guy with the mic has seen someone else.
Thank you so much, Madam Mary and Linus, for gracing us with your presence and your wisdom. I have a question to Mr. Linus. One day, there is a guy called Peter and another guy called Walter Mungare. And they came with placards outside Nation door. And they said they wanted a job. I wanted to know, why did you give them that job?
And we'll take 3 questions so that we batch them up. So move the mic around. Another question. So the first question was for you, Linus. Why did you give Peter and why did you give them the job when they just rocked up at your place? Yes.
Thank you so much, Linus and Mary. This was really enlightening. There is a presentation that you did and said that 80% of the jobs that will be done in 2030, which is 5 years from now, are not even in existence today. So you guys being on the side of, let me call you employers, like what are the cheat notes that you would give us to be able to be ready for that so that we are not caught up in the Kodak moment? That's one. The second one is, I feel like we are the in-betweens, the Gen X and the Gen Zs, us being the millennials. Most of us are actually competing for the same jobs with the Gen Zs, but then the Gen Zs are in this platform where they feel like they don't want the 8 to 5. AI has come, it's taking over and replacing so many jobs. So what would you say about that in connection with the 85% as well? Thank you.
One more question.
Good evening. My question to, I guess, both of you is, where does self-awareness come to play in understanding your purpose as a person? And the other question for you is for you, Mary. I love how you speak about your mother, and I was curious about how your background determined or ignited you to your purpose, and especially on wanting to ensure women have a voice, and that was based on what you discussed about the bank.
Yes,
Sorry,
I think
by the way, I didn't get the question on who are these fellows you say I gave a job?
I think let me try and explain the question.
Yes.
When you look at those young men, because Walter Mongare was...
Oh, Mongare.
Yes.
Ah.
And Peter was this guy.
Okay, now ridiculous team.
Exactly.
Okay, now I understand the question now.
All right.
Can I just talk about it briefly and then I hand over to Mary?
Yes.
Actually, in my presentation, but I didn't manage to explain it, when I was talking about Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan, the next slide was actually about those guys. In fact, if you are leading, you say Churchill. Because I was very humbled, actually. 5 years ago, long after I had left Nation, they had a show. And they invited me. I was in the farm. I nearly came in gumboots. And they gave me those old gramophones that were of my time. And I really felt humbled because they actually recognized. I did not give them a job. Actually, I started the relationship when I was in GSK, because that's the time of ridiculous. We offered to sponsor it, we offered to support it. It was something very new. And then we continued with people like Churchill when they came to, when I came to Nation. So they gathered together and then gave me that thing. And it's probably one of the best gifts I've ever got. But that is where we talk about recognizing talent and knowing the position that God has entrusted you with is a steward. How you interpret it, I guess, is your business. But you are a steward. You realize you are a steward and ask yourself, oh Lord, what it is would you want me to do today? I think for me that is what is important to those and to many others, that one could have had the privilege of helping. I hope I've answered your question. Was there any other one for me, or I hand over to...
yes.
Which is the other one?
The other one was about I think from her, what is the cheat sheet you're giving us about future jobs? You spoke about the evolution of
that one.
the jobs of today,
that one I
the
cannot
jobs of the
touch.
future.
That is the conversation of younger fellows. I am going to leave this to Mary. I was also shocked that this is going to happen. But I can add one little thing. Up the road, we have a business called Oxygen Marketing Communications. We have about 120 people. Me, when I go there, you've been there, the average age is 25 because it's a communications company. I cannot see myself. I go there, I cannot stay for more than an hour because I don't even understand the conversations they're having. So Mary, over to you. You are the one who said that.
Yes, I did, and I think I can support that. That question, that statement is supposed to spur you to actually study the trends in your industry, or depending on what you are doing, because I think jobs will be affected in different ways, depending, of course, on your industry. So if you talk about media, when you talk about manufacturing, even banking, if you look at banking now, and I will just give you a good example because I've been in the bank, Linus has talked about banking. Can you imagine the number of people who are required to process loans on a daily basis, where when you need your, loan for your business and all that, for whatever reason, working capital. Now, in another few years, and this has already started. Actually, we are saying the future is already here. It's not going to happen sometime to come. We are living it now. Now, in another, we are already doing digital lending. And that is what now Mama Marigiti, Mama Mboga, when they go to buy their provisions in the morning, they take a loan on their phone. And they are taking a loan even if they don't have a feature, they don't have a smartphone. So you say, I want to buy carrots. Today, I will sell carrots worth 10,000, and I'll probably make a margin of whatever. They go to the phone and buy, and then go to their stand in Kawangware or wherever and sell the whole day, maybe up to midday, depending on the demand. At the end of the day, they pay back the bank the 10,000 they took in the morning, and they keep the profit. Now imagine, and the height of those loans, when they are taken the most, is guess what time? 3 to 4 a.m. 3 to 4 a.m. Where are you 3 to 4 a.m.? You are asleep. But the phone is disbursing loans to the people who are working at that time. Now imagine if you are a credit officer in a bank. Where will you be in 2030? That is just one example. And there are many others. So examine yourself and other industries that you are interested in. You could be in business, and figure out what is likely, depending on, because you can see the signs already, what is changing. It's homework for you. Do the homework and understand what will happen. How many people here have been to the bank of late, let's say in the last 2 weeks? How many? Inside the bank branch. Hey, there's one hand there, out of a population of what? 2.
80.
Okay. How many are we? What percentage is that? 2 out of whatever the number we are. Did you ever do banking transactions yesterday, the day before? Yeah. Do you see what I mean? That's what I mean. So, if you are in that seat, make sure you do not become a Kodak and rendered irrelevant completely. Know what is happening and upskill yourself to prepare yourself for the next level of how the business is going to happen. And it's happening everywhere, every sector. Check how it's changing. Now, on self-awareness, there was a question of self-awareness. You know, self-awareness is very simple. I understand my strengths very well, but I also understand my not so strong points. It's just about that. And I accept who I am, the way God made me. And I also know that my strengths, there's something probably I can do to make them even better. But I also know that some of my not very good points, maybe if I do a little bit of work on them, I can make it a bit better. If I'm not a good communicator, I can probably take a few classes, and then I become a better. I can join the Toastmasters or other forum, and then I'll probably speak better, communicate better with my clients, with my colleagues, and everybody and other stakeholders. So the question then is, do we accept? Because you can only make yourself better if you accept that you are not very good at something, and yet you need to do better in that field. But also remember, there are some limitations that we don't actually need to cover or work on, because we will never get better as good as we need to be. Those are the ones you say, I know Linus is very good in marketing. By the way, I'm a very poor salesperson, if you didn't know. So what do? I can collaborate with him and tell him, oh, I have this big product. Please help me to sell it. I do not need to set up a big marketing franchise to do it. He will do it easily, like, for me. That's what self-awareness is all about in leadership and in business. And it's something that we need to continually work on every day. But the thing is, let's accept who we are. And then the work now begins from there. Accentuate our strengths, and then we try to minimize our weaknesses if we need to. But also accept that there are some that we don't need to, because somebody else can cover that up for us in a collaboration. If I need detailed analysis, I don't need to go to school to study that. I will get someone who is give me a report, flash, 5 minutes, and I have all the points I need in a flash. Now, my mom, I learned several lessons, and they shaped me. By the way, the reason why I really wanted to become a lawyer is because there were some issues in the family that went legal, and I actually kept on saying, wow, I wish I was a lawyer. See, I'll be helping my mom to deal with these cases. That was my biggest motivation. That is why I actually chose law as my first choice, and thank God that I got it. And I actually supported after I qualified. Actually, even before I qualified, in our village, if you're in the University of Nairobi doing law, watu wanaanza kukuita wakili. So they'll call me, wakili. Sasa hapa tutafanya nini? And I'm in second year that time. So I became an advisor. So that shaped me. But as I said earlier also, her dedication to faith, that was actually the third thing that she taught me. Prayer is very, very important because it grounds you. So it does not matter as a professional how far you go. She taught me that prayer, and she was very prayerful, even up to her last day. I stayed with her for 5 years before her death. Every day, she would recite the rosary. We are Roman Catholics. And other prayers. And even the caretaker knew, when she's in prayer, you don't knock that door. Leave her to do her prayers. And that has carried me through, because when you're in leadership, you encounter those tough moments. And you must have that anchor. And for me, I found that in my faith. You feel like, oh, this thing is so difficult. Lord, show me the way. And actually, you see the answer right in front of your eyes. But of course, you also have to act and do what you need to do. So I guess those were the two great influences, in addition to the other values of hard work and integrity that have really shaped my career. And like Linus said, I would also walk comfortably in any corridor and say, I have no skeletons that I left in my 34 years, 14 years in practice and 20 years in the bank that I cannot explain. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you have many more questions that you'd want to pose to our panelists here, but we are running a bit late. And this is just the first conversation on legacy. It's a whole series. We'll have 2 more events on legacy. We have a podcast coming up and another TED Talk on legacy, still on legacy on this subject. So we'll have more opportunities to discuss this particular subject matter. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, the audience, for braving the cold and joining us this evening. Thank you. And this is just a show of your commitment to grow, to learn. And we must grow and learn every day. I think we've all picked up something today that we can apply in our lives, in our families, in our workplace. So thank you for coming. I'd also like to thank our panelists here. Thank you for your honesty, for your humility, and just your willingness to share your life. And thank you for being who you are. We are truly proud to say that we know you as a church, as a people that we know people who are truly inspiring. And to all the unseen hands working in the background, the sound team, the visual team, the catering team, and the team that planned this event, thank you so much for your dedication. We truly appreciate you.
Yes, let's just say a word of prayer as we close. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the knowledge you've endowed upon us, the wisdom. You've sent your people, Linus and Mary, to endow us with wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and equipping us with things that we can use in the marketplace of today. We glorify and magnify you. In Jesus' precious name we've prayed. Amen. There are a few cocktails, there are a few drinks. I know it's cold. Please indulge. Thank you very much for coming. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all, now and forevermore. Amen.
And just to mention, we have a table over there with Mary's book. You can grab a copy. We also have a registration desk in the back. If you'd like to join our ministry and volunteer with us and come and work with us, you're very welcome. Thank you so much.